This is me, Matthew Stibber, not actual size. Well, actually on this screen, almost. I advertise this as being 10 ways to improve your website with better copy. I kind of lied a little bit. Actually, as I worked through the presentation, it ended up being about 100. So it's going to go really fast, and there will be a slide deck on articulatetraining.co.uk tomorrow. This URL will be at the last slide of the deck. Okay, who here has a website? Actually, who here actually can edit the text in their website? Fewer. A little bit, maybe a third of you. Probably more than like 2/3, I think, have a website. Who has to go through somebody else to get it edited if they want it edited? One or two others. Okay, who here runs a business? Yes, fantastic. Oh, hey, nice to see you. Right, good. I have lots of websites. I run businesses. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the websites that I run. This is not introducing me. That's a surprise at the end. This is just to sort of explain sort of something about the experience I've had with websites. This is Articulate Marketing. This is my marketing company. This is Articulate Training. This is our training company. This is Bad Language, the blog. This is Turbine, which if you want to do expenses, purchase, time off, HR record keeping, this is the app for you. Quick plug. This is the new version of Turbine that's in development right now. Here are some of our corporate clients at Articulate Marketing. So we do this on a big scale as well as for ourselves. We just finished working on this website for Google. We wrote most of the copy on that. We just finished working on this for Microsoft, not the UK, but Central Europe. So this is actually a Cyprus website, which is in English, so there you go. But we wrote these personas and these little stories for them. Nick, we wrote this for you, bits of it. And nobody could accuse us of not having ambition. We did some copywriting and some project management for Project Icarus on a pro bono basis. They want to launch an interstellar probe in the next 90-something years. You know, they might get there. It's quite serious. There's like PhDs coming out of their ears. They're very bright guys. Anyway, so yeah, we do websites and stuff. So this is kind of where I'm coming from. And I want you to know that although I work for money primarily for big companies, we also do other stuff. And that's the experience that's informing it. So why are we here? If you have a website, or if you're thinking of getting one, or you're doing work on websites for other people, what is the website for? There are lots of things that websites are doing, and I sort of thought about this, and I was thinking, okay, well, how does this translate into stuff that I can measure? And I kind of came up with some of these things. All of those, I think, are completely valid. Look, my laser pointer. Yes, these are some measurable business goals. I think the problem that people have with websites is they kind of build them and they go, great, right, that's the website done. Oh, great, we don't have to touch that for 2 years. We'll go off over here and do some marketing. Well, wait, no, your website is marketing. In fact, marketing isn't a department. It's something, it's everything you do. Everything is marketing, really, but your website particularly. So I want to talk a little bit about how a customer, a visitor, a reader experiences your website. If you like, the journey or the life cycle of a website visitor. And I think this is the context in which some of these writing interventions are going to be placed this evening. I've got a little cautionary note here, by the way. Don't do as I do as I say, because a lot of the things I'm saying here, some of the things I'm saying here, we don't do, or we're getting to do, or we're learning. So this is a little bit ahead of the reality for Articulate Marketing, like for a lot of companies, but it's kind of where I think the cutting edge is. Okay, so what is the visitor life cycle? I think they have got to find you, right? Millions of websites, billions of websites in the world. How do they get to your website? A website they don't visit is, they don't care about. There's nothing going to happen if they can't come find you, right? And somebody made a very wise point, and like a lot of very wise points, it sounds like a truism. Most people spend most of their time not looking at your website. So even if they find you, they've got to find you again, they've got to engage with it. But when they get to you, they are going to evaluate it. What I mean by that is they're going to take a very, very quick view of what your website looks like, whether it's worth staying, whether it's what they're looking for. You'd be surprised how quick they do that. We'll come on to that in a minute. Then they have to find what they're looking for on your website. They have to navigate it. So this is beginning to be a series of stages where you can make interventions and help them. Then they have to engage with it. They have to do something. They have to buy your holiday. They have to hire your services. They have to come to an event. Ideally, and I think this is now something that is beginning to be a lot clearer with websites, it's not just, you know, when you get them to the end of the funnel and they've bought something or they've transacted or they've found the thing and they've moved on. Actually, you want them to tell all their friends. You want them to tell all their colleagues. It's got to have an afterlife, the website experience. And ideally, you want them to come back. So there's a sort of a funnel, and then there's a funneling and opening out as well. So let's look at some of these things. How are people going to find your website? One obvious example. How else?
Email.
They could read about it in an email. Exactly. Thanks, Don. That's a good example. What else? Sorry? Business card, right? Yeah, or something offline. Somebody else said something? Yeah. Articulatemarketing.com, definitely worth going and visiting. There you go. Right. When they come to the website, they're going to evaluate it. Some of you have seen this before, some not. What are we looking at here? Hotspots of? Eye movements. Yeah, this is eye movements, eye tracking of 230, 240 visitors on 3 different websites. So what they are tracking, they've got like a little camera here that is looking where you're reading. So the dark colours, where most people spend, where eyes are more intently looking, if you see what I mean. And the light colours, like down here, not so much attention. What can we deduce from this picture?
The top information has to be the most important on the left-hand side.
Top left, yes. I think that's right. And? People are scanning. Absolutely, that's absolutely right. They're hunting and pecking.
The page isn't really looked at very closely.
And most of the page isn't really looked at, exactly. And the evidence is people on average read about 20% of a web page. On average, right? Some people will read all of it. Some people, if it's exactly what they're looking for, they might read 10,000 words. One of the most popular articles on my blog is 3,000-4,000 words, how to get the job you really want. But only if that's what you're looking for, right? If you're trying to find something else, I'm not reading all this, just, you know. And on average, they give you about 4 seconds for every 100 words. So, and there's some suggestion that people are able to form a judgment about a web page on a sort of subliminal basis, almost just by glancing at it, in a fraction of a second. And you've all had this experience, actually. You get like, oh, that's not what I want, back, or open a new page, or close it, or whatever. Okay. They've got to navigate it. So they might use a search box. They might use a menu. You might invent some crazy navigation scheme. Don't do that. I'll come on to that in a minute. Interesting stat, 40% of website visitors have been trained by Google. They will go straight to a search box if they see one, and they will type something into it. They will expect your website to behave like Google. And woe betide you if they type in, I don't know, Mother's Day flowers, and they don't get Mother's Day flowers, because that's what they'd get if they went to Google. So if you're a florist, right, if you're a copywriting firm, you're not going to have flowers. People are really impatient, right? They want instant information. We live in this sort of nano attention culture where everyone's sort of flitting around. I was talking to somebody at a client this afternoon, and I was saying, how do you get through the day when he's got back-to-back meetings? He said, well, I have the headset on, I carry on doing my email. So effectively, he is literally multitasking. He's doing 2 things at the same time the whole day. I mean, as a writer, I find that very hard to kind of comprehend. If I'm writing, I have to concentrate on writing. But good. All right. If you are lucky, if you have structured your website well, if they have found you and they have evaluated you favorably and they have engaged with what you have said, they might do something. And this is the bit that matters to you, right? Buy the holiday, pick up, make the meeting, download the white paper, give you their email address, whatever it is you want out of it. This astonishing number of what I would call brochureware sites where they just put some stuff up on the website and maybe there's a contact form and they've done it. Right, website done. In my view, if you can't measure it, if you can't track the conversions, if you can't get something, they can't act, why have a website, actually? And I'll show you some examples of websites that do that really well and some websites that don't need to. Okay. You want them to share. Hey, I found this great website. I'm sharing it on Facebook. I'm telling you word of mouth. All those lovely examples we had earlier. You want them to come back. This is some stats I pulled this afternoon. Right, Bad Language is a blog. We get a lot of traffic from social media, a lot of people just finding us from Google. You will see that returning visitors is a very small proportion of that traffic, 14%. I mean, they're lovely, you know, that's 3,000 visitors a month, something like that, so great, loyal fans. Tons and tons of people not coming back at all. And, you know, where are they going? Why didn't they stay? How did we lose them? On the other hand, here is an application, right? This is Turbine. This is people actually using the app. And the proportions are almost reversed. Only a quarter of those visitors are new visitors. It doesn't help that Google Analytics flips the colors around. And increasingly, when you do search results, people come in from Google, they've actually used an encrypted session with Google, and Google doesn't tell you what they use to search for you. You don't get the keywords, you don't get the information. And that's an interesting development, so put that in your pipe, NSA, and smoke it. Okay, and this sort of, I call it sort of drive-by visitors, really. This is echoed across other sites as well, and I think this is quite common. In fact, I feel quite lucky with this lovely, loyal group of people who are coming back and reading more and more. So here is the life cycle. This is the experience of a visitor to your website. What does that mean for your business? Well, if you turn it into a sales funnel, it starts to look a little bit more sort of, okay, I've got attention, I've got interest, I've got decision, I've got action, and then it sort of opens up again into this afterlife of the visit. And clearly, what you can do is you can put tons and tons of effort into getting people in the top of the funnel, you know, spending millions of pounds on Google AdWords and stuff. But at each of these stages, you are losing people. And I'm going to give you some stats on this. Each of these stages, you're losing people. And if you can, by copywriting, optimize that, keep more of them in, move more of them through the funnel, you can make your website much more effective. And that's really what we're about. Here is some stats about Turbine HQ. This is the marketing site for Turbine. And I'm not going to tell you the time series here. I'm just going to give you the proportions, okay? Because this is kind of sensitive stuff. But I'm bearing my soul to you. So over this time period, we had just under 5,000 visitors, of which only 1,100 stayed more than 10 seconds. Only about a quarter stayed more than 10 seconds. And I think this is pretty typical, actually. Which is kind of astonishing, actually. Where do they go? They kind of had that evaluation thing. They went, this is not what I'm looking for. Maybe they bookmarked it, came back, I hope. Maybe I didn't catch their cookie. Maybe they closed it and then they went back and reopened it. I don't know. Some of them, a slightly larger proportion, opened more than 2 pages. So amazingly, there's a couple of 100 people in there who clicked, went to the site, opened another page, and then cleared off in less than 10 seconds, which is, I think, pretty dexterous. What we want to do very much is get people to the plans and prices page, because that's where we test our conversion. You know, that if they don't get there, we've sort of failed a little bit. So this is our engage thing. It's how many people got there, and again, the proportion dropped. And then 112 people actually signed up for the free trial. Great, we love those guys. And then we have a proportion of those who become paying customers, and they're the ones we really, really love. Of that incoming funnel at the top, only about 100 were social visitors, meaning that they came from LinkedIn or Google or Twitter or whatever. That's a very low proportion, and we are working on it, aren't we, Claire? Yes. Yeah. So, interestingly, one of these 112 sign-ups came from one of these 100 social people. So that's pretty good, actually, as a conversion rate. We got somebody. Okay. So if we go back to this funnel, you can see that we actually lose, a ton of people at the top of that funnel. And then we lose proportionally more. So if you can kind of widen that funnel, get more people through it, yippee-yi-yay.